And one captain had a litter of pups, and every day Captain would make that trip back to that old home twice a day. Captain was a very, very good dog.
How can you choose a name Captain? Do you remember?
No, it's just a name one of my brothers or sisters gave our dog. And it was a good name.
Do you have any chores to do? Any certain chores?
Yes, I had to do dishes and help my mother iron, clean house, help watch my brothers and sisters, mainly do dishes and to help clean the house. I used to mop the kitchen floor and put soap suds all over it and skate on it like I was Sonia Henney. Yeah. I did quite a bit of work when I was young. A lot of chores.
How old were you when you started dating?
I was 16 when I started dating.
Do you remember your first date?
Yeah, it was a boy in the ward. I think his name was Richard White. And he asked me out. And we were just friends. But, yeah, I was 16 when I started dating.
What did you do on dates?
We'd go to a movie or go on a church party, usually church parties, canyon parties, or house parties. Movies. Just had good, clean fun.
How much did candy and pop cost?
Candy and pop? Oh, probably a nickel a bottle or a nickel a candy bar. Things were a lot cheaper then, but people made less money, and so you didn't get candy and pop very often. I remember thinking how good root beer was, or if you went to a drugstore that'd have a fountain there, and you'd buy a cherry cola, and it was so good. But it wasn't very expensive.
How many brothers and sisters did you have?
I had 5 brothers and sisters. I had 3 brothers and 2 sisters. My brother Jerry was the oldest, and then there was me, and then my brother Albert, my sister Shirley, my sister Joyce, and my brother Dwayne. And we're all living. And we seem to be quite close.
What was it like growing up with them?
Oh, my brother Albert teased a lot. He was a tease. My brother Jerry always took care of me. He had never let anyone hurt me. My sister Shirley was a spitfire. She wouldn't let anyone get the best of her. My little sister Joyce just seemed like a little sister, and then my youngest brother Dwayne seemed like my own child because he was so much younger than I.
Did you ever play any games together?
As a family, hide and seek, jump the rope, war, card game, can't think of too many.
Where were you born?
I was born in Salt Lake City, Utah, at the Old County Hospital. It's on 21st South and State Street.
Have you lived in Utah your life?
All my life.
Have you ever wanted to live anywhere else?
If I wanted to live anywhere else, it'd be here in Colorado. But I love Utah, and I love the water. It tastes better than anywhere else.
Did you ever travel much when you were young?
No, we didn't travel much when we were young because my parents didn't have much money. They started traveling when I got to be in my teens, and sometimes I'd stay home. But no, we didn't travel much. We did go down to American Fork, down to spend time in the canyon and to see his mother and grandmother, my dad's mother and grandmother. Christmas was beautiful. We used to have long socks that we used to wear. Not the kind they have nowadays, but they're the kind they used to be brown and different colors of brown, and we used to wear them as long socks, and we'd hang them up and they'd hold a lot of candy. And at the bottom of them was always an orange and apple and lots of candy and nuts wrapped up on the top of them and candy canes. And we used to have a fireplace when we moved up on 3rd South and 7th East, and we used to all hang our stockings up before we went to bed, and we always had a fresh Christmas tree, and they were always so beautiful. And when we'd wake up in the morning, then our Christmases would be all there, and we'd get all the all the neat things from Santa.
How old were you when you stopped believing in Santa Claus?
I never stopped believing in Santa Claus. When I was, I was really glad when I found out there wasn't a Santa Claus, because I had a girlfriend, and every year she'd get all these presents, and she'd say to me that Santa liked her better. And then when I found out Santa Claus was my parents, I thought, good, Santa doesn't like her better. It's just because her parents had more money. So I was glad when I found out there was no Santa Claus.
Do you remember anything that happened in World War II?
I remember when World War II started. I remember that we were over at some friends of my parents' house, and we were having Sunday dinner, and the news came on the radio that Pearl Harbor had been bombed, and that wasn't long after that President Roosevelt came on the radio and said that the United States had gone to war against Japan. And so then I remember that my dad wanted to go out and join, but he couldn't because he was 4F. He had too many children, but friends of my parents just went out and joined the war. During World War II, if you had a member of your family that was in the war, then they would give you a flag that you would hang in your window, and on this flag there would be stars, and for each member of the family that was in the war, then you'd have a star. Well, my mother's mother, Grandmother Eichster, had 5 stars on this flag that they would hang in their windows. She had a daughter-in-law, son-in-law, 2 sons, and a daughter in the war at one time, and she was very, very patriotic, and when I was young, she would ask me to sing There's a Star-Spangled Banner Waving Somewhere, and then I'd sing it for her, and she'd just sit there and cry. And then she'd say, sing it for me again, and she'd cry and cry and cry. But she really loved that song, and her crying was because of her children being gone. And I remember that we had to ration everything. That I had a young cousin that they would ration the gasoline. And at Mother's Day was coming, and he was only 17, and he wanted to take his mother for a ride. So, as young boys would do sometimes, he and his friends went out to see if they could steal some gasoline from a farmer. And they went out to his barn out in Bountiful, and my cousin Benny struck a match, and it exploded, and he caught fire, and they say that he ran, and they couldn't catch him to put him out, and that he ran through a brick wall. He was burned so badly by the time they got him, and he didn't live long in the hospital, and he was brown like a turkey. But I remember his funeral and all his young friends being there, and it was really, really sad. And I remember how sad everyone was, and how they treated the Japanese that lived here. They didn't treat them too nice, and if someone was German, they would come and ask you questions about them as to their patriotism. And I remember that the war was hell, and it seemed long, and it was sad, and it took a lot of lives, and I remember when it was over how happy we all were. But it was a long war. He was burned so badly by the time they got him, and he didn't live long in the hospital, and he was brown like a turkey. But I remember his funeral and all his young friends being there, and it was really, really sad. And I remember how sad everyone was, and how they treated the Japanese that lived here. They didn't treat them too nice, and if someone was German, they would come and ask you questions about them as to their patriotism. And I remember that the war was hell, and it seemed long, and it was sad, and it took a lot of lives, and I remember when it was over how happy we all were. But it was a long war.
Did you have any idea of what you were going to do when you finished school?
No, I didn't have any idea. I thought mainly to work and earn money and buy clothes. I tried going to a few schools, but I didn't really apply myself. I wish now that I had it, but I think my main thought was to get a job and earn money so I could have, buy clothes and, spend the money on myself. My mother made us pay board, though. If we weren't going to school, she made us give so much of her money towards the house.
That's what my mom still do.
It's a good idea. That way it makes you more grateful.
Yeah. What'd your family do for entertainment?
We fished. We went into the canyon a lot. Spent the day up there. We listened to the radio. We played cards. Had company over. Went to a movie once in a while, but that was one of us children. We were always glad when our parents gave us some money to go to a movie. But we usually stayed home and visited, and I used to lay on the floor and listen to the radio.
What was your favorite songs?
Some of my favorite music was, I have often walked on the street before, but the pavement always stayed beneath my feet before. All at once am I, several stories high, knowing I'm on the street where you live. I loved that song. I loved good music, semi-classics. I loved all music, but more classical music than popular music.
What kind of music was popular?
The Bunny Hug, trying to think back now at the music that was popular during those times. It was the slow foxtrot music, and the big bands were in, Tommy Dorsey and